Hello guys, welcome to another video. Today I thought I would explain why I think that this £250 Rover Metro is the ultimate sleeper. So, the car's journey started back in January 2017 when I picked it up off a farm for £250. I will whack a picture up now of what it used to look like, but as you can see, it was dented. It had been in a front end accident as well, so the bonnet and grille was all damaged. As soon as I got it home, pretty much, I started stripping it down, took the engine out. I've got a whole build. I've got it pretty much all on photos. The car has been through 3 different engines. First engine I put in was a 160 horsepower naturally aspirated Rover K series. It's then been through a couple of turbo variations, the original turbo and now this bigger turbo. But the main reason why it's such a sleeper is because nobody would think that this car has got sort of 350 horsepower per tonne. That's more than most cars nowadays. That is much more than some supercars you see as well. Just have a look at some of the charts on the internet. You'll see how much horsepower this car really does have per tonne, and it is quite surprising what it is faster than. But yeah, it's just a car you don't see around. Nobody has them. And the ones you do see around are kept by old people, you know, just standard, put in the garage, run-of-the-mill vehicles. But I want to be a bit different. I mean, no one's really done this much to a Metro. There's a whole forum on Facebook full of people who've modified Metros. So of course I'm not the only one who's done this because that would be silly. But yeah, turbo Metros, they're few and far between, especially when they're pushing sort of near 300 horsepower at the flywheel. So it is quite impressive, really. I mean, when you've got a car that weighs sort of 750 kilograms, which is pretty much as light as a feather, really. I think if I put some sort of handle on the back, I probably could pick the back end up and turn the car around. So it is very light, especially with no interior. There's no back seats, obviously. There's only the front seats here, which are bucket seats. And yeah, the rear end is really light, and it does become quite sketchy around corners sometimes if you lock the rear wheels up. So you've got to be careful and watch out for the oversteer. But yeah, they're just very unique, quirky little cars. You see, like, the amount you see around is just so minimal. And when you do come up to someone at the lights and they think, oh look, it's just a boy racer in his pimped out granny mobile with a loud exhaust on it, and then you leave them for dust, it's like, they always pull up next to you and ask you how or why and what's in it. So it's always nice to have someone underestimate your car and then totally wipe the floor of them. So it is good. It is good for that. But yeah, you'll see a lot more of it on the channel in the coming months. Hopefully the lockdown will be lifted soon, so I can start going drag racing again. So I'll get you some onboard footage of the racing, and just in general there'll be a bit more driving stuff, because obviously we can't really leave the house at the moment unless it's for essential journeys. So that's not really an option, just to go for a drive. So yeah, but would I recommend the car to someone? Of course I would. I wouldn't recommend it in its stock form because it is a bit boaty and like there's not really much that gets you excited about it. But once you modify it and put a big engine in and get loads of power out of it, yeah, it does become quite frightful, and it is an interesting drive, that's for sure. You won't drive many things like this. All the people I've taken out in it, they absolutely love it. Some of the reactions I've got, I'll post one up now. When I first took somebody out in it, so yeah, you'll get a few more of them as well. But I'll post up a whole load of pictures now of what the car used to look like and how it's come this far, when the wheels went on, this, that and the other. So a whole build photo album will be up now, going through the screens. I'll post up some pictures now of the cars I've used to own. I had a Volvo 340 that I'd done up. I bought that with a broken rear axle, changed the axle out, and took that to shows for about 6 months. Hands down, one of the worst cars I've ever driven. Don't get me wrong, it was awesome to look at and it was cool, everyone loved it. It was just a poor car to drive. Welded diff, it was awful. Then a Volvo 480 turbo, don't see many of them, giant block of cheese pretty much. That was tuned up as well, had an ECU chip, I turned the boost up. That thing got hammered. That's my first turbo car that I ever owned, and since then I've only had cars with turbos on. So that's where the addiction for turbocharging started, really. But yeah, I'll post a picture of the turbo 480 up now. That was an interesting car. It broke down pretty much every day I used it. Being built by Renault, it was literally just a Renault with a Volvo badge on it, really. Renault engine. It was pretty poor for reliability. I think I broke down about 5 times on the way to work in 1 week. I had to get the boss out to save me at one point, and my exhaust fell off on the way back to work after he'd saved me. So it was all very, yeah, it was just an odd car. I wouldn't have another one, I don't think. Although it was great, but I wouldn't have another one, that's for sure. And yeah, I mean, they're 2 of my most interesting cars. I had a Toyota Starlet as well. That was my first car I've ever owned. I binned my first car after a week of driving it into a tree. So that was interesting as well. And then I bought the Starlet, done that up. That was a great car. Again, one of the best cars I've ever owned. Never let me down once. I used to hammer that, do burnouts in it all the time and everything. So, yeah, it's very interesting. I've had a few cars. I've probably about 20 cars, to be honest, but none of them I've kept for more than a month. Renault Clios, Ford Mondeos, just boring stuff like that. But yeah, this is one of the most modified cars I've ever had. And yeah, it's one of the best cars I've ever owned. The community for Metros as well is brilliant. They're all so helpful, so you can't knock that either. I'll put a link to the Facebook group in the description below if you're ever interested in buying a car or just interested in seeing what goes on in the group. At the moment it struggles to put down any power anyway because it has the standard gearbox and diff in it, so it just wheel spins continuously. So it does need a different gearbox, but I think when this gearbox does eventually give up, because it is going to at some point, I will change it for the PG1 gearbox out of the MGZR or MGTF, as they're known to take sort of up to 400 horsepower with no real issues, and LSDs are much cheaper to get for them than they are this gearbox here. So that'll be going in next winter. There'll be a whole build video on that as well, of me taking the engine out again. I'll probably do some subframe modifications. I'll try and make it as track focused as I possibly can, because I have got the other car as well now. I don't really use this that much unless I'm going to shows or racing it, so it can be turned into a pretty much full-on race car without me losing any drivability, because I don't drive it very often anyway. I've got a set of race slicks to use when I next go drag racing, as I did struggle for traction last time I went. I'll put that video up now of me wheel spinning pretty much the whole length of Centreport Raceway. And that was with 200 horsepower, so I've gained 75 horsepower potentially, give or take that, since I last went. So traction is going to be even more of a problem. But yeah, it's just a great car, really. I'll put a few videos of me driving it, a few launch control things as well. But yeah, thanks for watching today, guys, and stay tuned for more.